Let's unravel Geeta's world.
So Prime Minister Modi is headed to France and the United States for the next week. He's going to have meetings with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and of course, the big meeting that all of us have been waiting for, at least all of us on the Foreign Affairs beat, perhaps not you, is his meeting with President Donald Trump of the United States. Going to be, of course, quite a challenge. But to unpack what's going to come over the next week, I have Geeta Mohan. Geeta, could you kick us off by telling us, let's start with France, and I think we should then dedicate perhaps a lion's share of this episode perhaps to talking about what's going to happen with America. But France, he's going to go. So conversations about defense deals, conversations about nuclear, France, country that we know, like, love in some cases as well. What exactly is going to be the agenda?
And the feeling is mutual. They love us too.
Yeah.
Just to have the Indian Premier as the co-chair of the AI Action Summit. And I was talking to a diplomat and he said the question that we wanted to know was of how is China going to play out in this entire AI Action Summit and, artificial intelligence with DeepSeek happening, so on and so forth. And he very nicely put it. He said the fact that India is the co-chair itself is messaging, not just to the world, but particularly to China. Mm-hmm. So India is going to play a very important role. France sees that role. Although when I looked at the list of tech giants, AI giants who are attending, apart from two Indian origin, apart from those two tech giants, there is no Indian per se. So we have a long way to go. But has the message of where India wants to be put forth? Yes. So for Prime Minister Modi, it's an important visit because he's going for something that's futuristic, future-looking, future and beyond, and taking a lead role there. Right. So his speech over there is going to be very important. There's a VVIP dinner that kicks off this entire event. Right. And then the next day, that's tomorrow, there would be the AI Action Summit. He's going to meet quite most of these tech giants. Right. AI specialists, experts, so on and so forth. And then he's also going to eat the nuclear facility. But goes to show how close the two sides are when it comes to nuclear cooperation. And then again, moving to Marseille, which is where the bilateral aspect of the
Modi-Macron thing is going to happen.
Of the relationship and the visit is going to take place. And that's where we're talking about over 80,000 crore worth of deals. Might not be signed there because they're waiting, in all probability, the signing of agreements would happen in Delhi is what we're being told, but announcements.
Sure. And what's on the agenda in terms of deals? We're hearing about Rafale marine jets for the Indian Navy, also some stuff on Scorpion submarines and so on. Yeah.
Yes, so that all those included would amount to more than 80,000 crore, 86,000 crores. Right. So that's a lot.
Lot of stuff.
And it comes right before he heads to America, where America is pitching for massive defense deals too. Right. The whole idea, and somebody was saying, no, the deal is done. France is an important partner. France is reliable. Maybe to us. How will Trump view it? Biden administration had a very different viewpoint, giving India the room to decide. The whole idea of strategic autonomy, which Dr. Jaishankar keeps iterating. But is that going to be something that will be allowed?
Right.
At the cost of American interest or American market or American business?
Right. So let me do this, right? I think that from the viewer's perspective, I think that I can see two common themes. Then we can get into the America side of things. That two things that you were mentioning that will come up, I think, on both sides of both sides of the Atlantic, both in France and in America. One is this question of nuclear, and the other is a question on defense.
Yes.
Right? You're going to have both conversations come up a lot. Could you tell us a little bit about this nuclear side? Because in the budget, we had Nirmala Sitharaman come out and say we're going to amend India's nuclear law. We're going to allow these foreign companies to operate more freely in India, set up nuclear power here. That is something that's supposed to be a conversation in France. It's going to be a conversation in America as well. What exactly is going on here?
It's the liability bill.
Right.
So what is the liability bill? Should there be an incident, who will be liable and how much would that liability clause
in case of a nuclear disaster,
in case of a nuclear incident, how much would the investors be liable for? In India, it was an amount that most of the investors outside were iffy about entering India only because of the liability clause. So now what is going to happen is, which is what was said even during the budget, that there is going to be an amendment to the nuclear liability clause. Now, if that happens, only then will we see some forward movement.
Right.
So all the conversations that you're hearing, the visits, all that depends on what India is going to do next, and everything depends on whether Parliament is able to amend.
Got it. But you think that some of the focus, of course, is going to be him talking to, because we know that France has some plans to set up nuclear plants here.
Oh,
America,
yes.
Westinghouse as well.
They're
so
all,
he's going to gin up support.
They are
talk
all
about
going
that?
to have that conversation. In fact, the statement coming during the budget ahead of these visits was intended to ensure that the conversations that he's going to have of Jaitapur and other facilities that they want enter India and Indian market is only because that the conversations have to remain positive rather than negative. If there was no amendment or no conversation of amending the law, then they would have gone into a conversation in France and then in the United States of America from a negative note, saying that, well, all we're asking is first go revisit your laws and amend those clauses. Unless and until that happens, there is going to be no forward movement, and there certainly isn't going to be, because everybody fears an incident and the liabilities involved, because it could just bring a company, run a company to the ground. And nobody wants that. Population in India is massive. We're talking about huge, concentrated places. And therefore, to have that conversation and to have a forward-looking conversation on Jaitapur with France and with America, America's Westinghouse, is why we heard the announcement of amending the rules. But again, India has to do it first for them to enter Indian market.
Got it. Right. And just to leave our viewers with a sense of what exactly.
But can I just add one more thing before you go into the larger aspect of America, maybe that everybody talks about competing, and we're looking at AI over here. We're looking at nuclear. Again, I was talking to another diplomat, and he was saying that you want to compete with China. China has. We are happy with 1,000 megawatts right now, and even the 10 reactors that we're planning on are in their initial stages or haven't started. There are 25 simultaneous projects in China of being built or already completed that are running in many ways or providing the kind of electricity that maybe we feel a shortage of. And what will it do? It'll really bring the price down. So there has to be political will, and I suppose there is, but there also has to be that wisdom with the political will on how and where to balance the liability clause to ensure that our people don't end up paying. Bhopal gas tragedy is one such very old example, and is not an example to do with nuclear, but
it's important. No, I think it's important. I think that one of the reasons why we wanted to mention, or at least I wanted to mention nuclear, was because I feel like, when it comes to Trump, everyone's going to start talking about illegal immigration, migrants, and of course the trade, tariffs. But I wanted to discuss the nuclear side, and I'm glad that we did get to talk about it, because everything that I'm reading is showing that nuclear power is going to be increasingly important to India's economy. As it grows, it needs more power. And the simple fact of the matter is that India's nuclear power program domestically has not grown as much as it should have. And now we need international partners to come in. And so a big part of Prime Minister Modi's visits to France and to the United States is going to be this idea of sitting down with a lot of these companies that have already established relationships with India to say that, look, we're going to make these changes.
And advanced conversations.
Exactly. And you can come in and look and invest here, and then we can push that nuclear conversation forward. So please do keep an eye on it, because it will come up. Now this question...
And watch out for our show, Shashank's show, Threadbare, on India Today Global, because that is going to focus on...
I should have done that. I should have plugged my own show. Thank you. I will
on
do that.
nuclear. But it is important because, he does some very, very good in-depth shows that breaks down various issues. Threadbare, catch it on India Today Global.
Thank you for my boss plugging me. Right. So now I'll ask the question that a lot of people are discussing right now, which is Donald Trump, the America visit. Let me go issue by issue because I'm sure there's a lot of things. There's trade, there's defense, there's tariffs, there's a lot of there's also illegal immigration, lots of things that we know are going to come up. Let me go issue by issue, and perhaps I can ask you to keep your answers on each of these brief. On the defense question, you said something about when Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had their conversation after Trump taking office. He said that we want India to buy more American-made defense equipment. India already buys billions of dollars worth of American defense equipment, has done over the last couple of years. What exactly is Donald Trump asking for? What more does he want India to buy? You mentioned, this thing about choices and Trump wanting India to choose. What exactly does that mean? What exactly is going to be on the agenda?
Oh, well, it's going to be interesting because he's going from France to the United States, and Trump will actually be looking at exactly what he's done, with Macron, and then having that conversation with him. He's already made it very clear that you need to take defense relations forward by buying American, not making India of American goods or American weapon systems. The problem over here for India is going to be let's take your first question on what is on offer over here. There is a push for F-35s.
Right. The fighter jet, the American prime fighter jet, 5th generation.
There is going to be a major announcement that is not to do with F-35s, but the Tejas engine, the GE engine that has been delayed for so long. That is certainly going to most probably be announced, or there will be some sort of a forward movement on that, because that's, again, a multi-billion-dollar deal. We're talking about 400 Tejas aircraft, and Tejas aircraft indigenously built to a GE engine.
Right.
Is the reason why now you cannot reverse it. You cannot reverse this entire thing. They just had to wait, and we really have shortage of
induction is
aircraft.
Of course delayed because of those engine delays.
And you cannot. You'll have to engineer the whole thing again if you're looking at another engine, and that's not possible. So the conversation moves forward. GE will have to supply on time. Whatever the timeline is going to be, that's going to be a major announcement. But there's going to be a lot of push on buying American. The problem over here, and the difference is, Shashank, transfer of technology. Last time around during Biden administration, when Modi had visited, there were massive announcements. And they said, okay, we're looking at technology transfer also. But when you went to the fine print and looked at it, it still was not complete technology transfer, and they at least were accommodating enough of some of India's requests. I don't know if Trump administration is going to do that.
They're not as open to sharing American defense technology.
Given we are partners and allies with Russia, I don't know how he's going to look at that. For now, everybody said, oh, he's pro-Russia, but look at the position he's taken. With regards to not the war, but otherwise. So on various aspects, if technology transfer does not happen, it's not a deal that's really advantage India, right? We have a France, and they're way better, less expensive, tailored to our request and specifications. So I suppose it is a massive diplomatic, fine line that Prime Minister Modi will have to walk. A very senior, again, diplomat has said, when I was asking him about this, he said that, Trump would want to push, and he sees who can take it because he only has the next 4 years. So for anybody, for our viewers, our listeners, everybody should realize this is not Trump era for all times to come. That's it, 4 years. He doesn't even have another term. So the Indian administration has to see how much can they take, how much are they willing to give in those 4 years. If they last those 4 years putting their foot down on some very important national security issues, then maybe we'll be better off.
Speaking of putting our foot down, there was, of course, a big national controversy that broke out in Parliament and otherwise. Lots of questions being asked about the nature of the deporting of 114 illegal immigrants from India, from the United States. They came in a military aircraft. Lots of comment about how they were transported. Some horror stories coming out from these people in question saying that they were bound and shackled.
And mistreated.
And mistreated on these flights. They were not allowed to go to the washroom. And of course, lots of opposition politicians in India have come out and criticized.
And the people themselves.
Absolutely. Of course, the Modi government's handling of this has also been criticized. How much of this now, the government has, of course, come out and said that, look, this is the standard operating procedure of the United States. But of course, it is an optical problem when it comes to India. And of course, it does create the question about how you're letting your citizens be treated. It is definitely a political attack point that has been used against the Modi government. How much is that going to feature in the Prime Minister's conversations with Donald Trump? Him saying that, look, I understand you have your domestic compulsions. You want to look tough on illegal migrants. But when you do things like this, it makes it very difficult for us because then we will feel the political compulsion to stand up to you and push back. So don't put me in that situation. Is the Prime Minister going to say something like that?
No, I don't think so. We were just discussing, something that Shashank said just a while ago about how well practiced the Japanese premier had to be to even interact with Trump, right? Prime Minister Modi might not have had that kind of also because he's a new premier. And Modi has dealt with Trump for a very long time. So he might not have to do that, but he knows exactly what can really ruffle feathers or rile Trump or, provoke him. He's not going to do that. And also remember, they've already, on many counts, agreed to what America and how America, the means and methods and modus operandi that America adopted in the deportation. And when it comes to optics bad for whom, Shashank? This is the exact optics that Trump wanted.
Right.
He wanted, when he sent those people to Colombia or to Mexico and to India, he wanted those visuals out, that it has to be a military aircraft.
It works for Trump.
Handcuffed, in shackles, release them when they're in their or on their soil, in their territory.
But does it work for Modi? Do those optics work for Prime Minister Modi?
Absolutely not. Which is why the only thing I suppose they wanted was that they should not be seen. There's no visual that came out of that airport. They should not be seen in handcuffs and shackles. The photos came later from America when they were being herded in or whatever.
The US Border Patrol itself put out it can only be called a promotional video, sort of playing it up that yes, we've thrown these people out.
So the understanding was that when they reach India, that they should not be seen handcuffed and shackled, which is why the first few hours, Shashank, you and I, we were all trying to confirm were they handcuffed or not? Were they handcuffed? We kept asking this question, and then there were some photographs that emerged on social media, and they said, they were handcuffed. And then PIB put out a fact-check article or a post saying that these are not Indians. So then we went back to, were they handcuffed or shackled or not, So the understanding was that you do what you want to and how you want to. Optics-wise, it can't be seen here. So you need to remove all of that when they step out of the aircraft.
Right.
So there are no visuals of them handcuffed and shackled. They were trying to manage that, right?
They're trying to manage the optics here in India.
Of course. Right. Otherwise, why would they not have let them off the way they did? But protocol does say that it's American soil, Indian soil.
But bottom line, do you think that the Prime Minister will raise this issue with President Trump?
He will, of course. Of course he will. But how will he raise it? Vikram Misri very clearly said that they were informed in advance. They knew exactly what the SOPs are. It's been on since 2012. What are they trying to do? They're trying to justify handcuffing and shackling. What are they going to raise? He said, but we have heard reports of mistreatment, and that shouldn't happen. We have raised it, and we will raise it with America.
Right.
So I suppose the conversation would happen on illegal immigration like it did between Marco Rubio and Jaishankar.
Right.
But the man who will actually raise it as a concern, I suppose, will be Trump.
Right.
And to counter that, I suppose Prime Minister Modi would say that, we are absolutely with you on illegal immigration. They should be sent back. It works very well for India because India has an illegal immigration problem on our eastern border. And we'd be very happy to do that, accept and ensure that the international community accepts this as the new normal so that we are not criticized when we send our illegal immigrants back. But he will, while talking about this, that's where I suppose the only concern he'll raise is with regards to mistreatment.
Right.
a lot of people don't get it. I don't think they realize that India has already said that it's normal to be handcuffed and shackled. The protest, the message of protest was not regarding handcuffing and being shackled.
But, I was seeing that former Foreign Secretary Sham Saran actually gave an interview very recently where he said that, look, even if India is doing it, it's wrong. People should not be treated like cattle in some senses and boarded onto a 14-hour flight and treated in this fashion.
Absolutely.
So if India is doing it to its own illegal migrants, that's also not quite right, and it should raise this issue with the Trump administration. Because also, and I think the point is, and perhaps after this we can move on, which is that of course, you would probably know this better than I would, but I don't think anti-Americanism in any way is finished in this country. And I think that, these visuals of an American president ordering Indian migrants bound hand and foot off to India and more thousands of these stories coming out is only going to add to,
I think. And in fact, you're right. It's not just the left liberals who, or the real left who are anti-America. Look, the right wing, in a way, when they had that entire Swadesh thing, are actually anti-West in many ways.
No, actually, the funny thing is that I have just got, because we're on this beat, I get calls from people and, people who, when Trump was elected would say, yeah, maybe he'll be good for India. But when they see something like this, it just on a human level irritates them that this is being done to Indian citizens, despite the fact that they may have gone there illegally. And so I think that there's a sensitivity to this issue that I think the American president and the American government would be wise to consider when it comes to India. But my question,
think they will.
Well, that is Trump. But I want to ask you one or two.
No, because there's precedence.
Right.
It was not Trump. Shashank, there's precedence since 2012. It's happening.
But with Trump and with his particular political brand, it just has come into the public for much.
No,
more.
the optics has come out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's
all about optics.
But all of politics is optics in some senses, right? And so if I can ask you one or two final questions, then, we've talked a lot about what Trump wants from India, right? We've said he wants us to buy American jets. He wants us to reduce our tariffs. He wants us to take back our illegal migrants. Okay, that's what Trump wants from us. What does Prime Minister Modi want from him in this visit?
Oh, that's a very important question. What does Prime Minister Modi would want? Yes, more strategic defense cooperation between the two countries, but not without technology transfer. So they are looking at technology transfer. Okay. On the strategic front, he would want to have kind of a cooperation where you're not containing China, but yes, you're right now, Shashank, and we've had this conversation. The fact that Trump is engaging China could be one of our biggest concerns in a way, that you don't have that card where you say that if China becomes too big for America, then we are the ones that America can use. We are the card for. You don't have that because of the way and the manner in which DC and Beijing are engaged. Elon Musk might have some role to play in this. So I think for India, it will be important to see where we stand, and that's what he will take. Economic cooperation. This budget, they did announce reduction of tariffs on motorcycles. So don't forget the Harley Davidsons.
Right, sure.
I suppose he's going in by saying that our intent to have better economic ties, have a trade agreement, free trade agreement between the two countries is of great importance, and that we need to move forward on that front. Intelligence, Indo-Pacific, or for that matter, the new digital AI world. And how many Indians are there in Silicon Valley working on this very aspect, right? So on that front, in all probability, India would want and seek more cooperation with.
On the H-1B question as well, do you think? H-1B visas?
On H-1B, you see, again, a lot of people think that he would have been bad, but he actually has not been. He's in fact, because of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, so on and so forth, he's not been tough on India per se. There has been no reduction. Has there been a cut in the quota? No.
So as far as I understand, during his first term, he actually he made it more restrictive and more difficult for people to get visas. And of course now, because he wants a broad tent coalition, he said, no, it's fine. We like H-1Bs. I've used H-1B, so it's good. But I wonder whether that is a real political commitment.
In fact, not just this. Look, there are a few things that he's announced, and you have to realize, because I think he's become politically more savvy in the second term. I told you last time we were talking, he came with a team. He was unprepared the first time around. This time around, he knew that hitting H-1B is like hitting your own business because they're only coming here to work. Which is why initially he was almost xenophobic and anti-foreigner. Right now he says, I'm only anti-illegals. And he's made that distinction. So when you're making the distinction saying, I'm anti-illegal, I'm okay with legals. In fact, I'm so okay with legals that I'm all right giving the bright sparks in American universities visas or green cards. Extended visas or green cards. And he's not just said it once, he's reiterated it twice or thrice over. I'm not looking, I don't see that as much of a problem right now. Maybe student visas where they overstay, that can be an area, but I don't see that right now as a problem.
This puts me in mind of a fun story that, we often used to talk about how Shinzo Abe, the former Prime Minister of Japan, and President Donald Trump had a very good relationship. And I remember reading a story somewhere where someone said that Trump is, of course, very big on investment. He loves when foreign companies and countries invest in America. And he was being very, very strong on allies, saying countries like Japan are, eating us alive on trade, taking advantage of us. And, of course, Japan was very scared by that. So Prime Minister Shinzo Abe basically knows that Trump does not read very much. You can't give him an intelligence briefing and expect him to read it. So they basically take this map of the United States, put it on a cardboard, and then they post these bright red stickers and say, all of these are places where Japanese companies have invested. And so that fills the entire American map with these big red stickers, like a children's sticking book. And then he gives it to President Trump on their first meeting. And President Trump is delighted because, he's like, oh my God, this gets through to him. And he says, this is so amazing. He's so delighted by this. And then he puts it up on the White House website and so on and says, oh, Japan is a friend of ours. And of course, they're investing in the United States.
See,
and
if Modi does that.
In some senses, playing the President of the United States, knowing how he functions, that was a level of preparation. And as I was saying that, the Japanese media has been reporting about how the new Prime Minister of Japan, Shigeru Ishiba, has had to do so much reading. Like they've given him placards and talking points saying that your answer should not be too long. Do not exceed this much. Do not.
I think Modi knows where to stop.
I think handling him is becoming a study session in itself. So the Prime Minister has our sympathies.
That is absolutely true. Because if you don't know the playbook and you're entering a room with Trump there, you are sure to lose. Unless and until you really know how to win and how to say the right things, or you just get lucky. But if Prime Minister Modi goes with such a map, the whole map, not just specks of red, the whole map would be, whatever color they
I think it's important because even us in the media, we've sat here and talked about, most of our episodes dedicated to what Trump wants. And I think that his reputation, he's often said, I think in private, and it's come out in media reports, that he often says that, look, I have to act tough and I have to act strong because it keeps people on the back foot. If they think of me as soft, they won't deal with me well. If they think of me as tough, they will give me what I want and we can get to a good deal. And so, just us sitting in this meeting here, because of his reputation as someone who's a domineering bully in some senses, we've talked about Trump wants us to buy this, Trump wants us to do this on trade, Trump wants us to do this on illegal migration. But what do we want from him? So I think psychologically it puts you on the back foot. So anyway, interesting negotiating back. It works on us as well in the media.
True.
But thank you so much. This was a crisp, I think, conversation about Prime Minister Modi's visit to France, as well as what's going to happen in the United States. It's going to be an interesting week, very busy week, not much sleep, but we will do our best to keep you absolutely updated with what's happening. Thank you so much again for watching Geeta's World, our 118th episode, my third in the chair. If you have, of course, any recommendations, we'd love to hear it in the comments. And so if you have any comments about the show more generally, you can, of course, reach out to us. You can, of course, comment, and you can reach out to us over the phone as well. You can
your feedback is precious.
Yes, your feedback can be sent at 8588-96698, or you can write to us at podcasts@indiatoday.com. Please do reach out, and thank you so much again for watching Geeta's World.